Everyone, Mulweni. My name is Oyama Mdleleni. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If it's your first time watching any of my videos, please don't forget to subscribe, like this video and share. On my channel, I specifically share what the Lord has placed in my heart. I am very intentional. I try to be intentional regarding that. So I've shared previously my experience or my trauma when I was raped at the age of 6 years by a family member. Again, for a period of 2 years. I was raped again when I was 8 years old by a cousin of mine. For a period of about 6 months, and also I was raped when I was doing my matric in year 2000 by a gang. It was 3 men, and then when I was pointed with a gun, as I was working to attend winter classes, but 2 of them raped me on that day. So I have shared how that trauma has affected the areas of my life, and I'm also giving this brief background also just to give a perspective in terms of what I'm about to share today. Also, as this was happening at the time, I was living with my paternal grandmother and aunts, as my father died when I was 8 months old from a car accident, and my mother then left me with my paternal family for them to raise me. So I had not seen my mother from that age of 6 years to until 8 years when I came back now. I will also put in that video on the description box below. But now, when I started visiting my mother had she had a shebeen, and she had remarried and had my sister. So she had remarried and she had started the shebeen. And when I started visiting her, I would also assist in terms of helping with selling and meeting with the clients, customers. And I remember them every weekend. They would come and spend, they were getting paid every weekly. So they would come and spend their money. They would spend every Friday. They would come and first pay what they were owing, because once their money was finished, then they would buy on credit. So they would come and pay and then buy again. Same weekend, when that money was depleted, then they will start again borrowing or buying on credit, and the following weekend they will come and pay that and buy again. So there was a book where we would make these recordings of who took what and who paid what. So that is the relationship now I started to have with money. And as I would come and see my mother would give me money, and at the time she would give me a lot of money. Like, for instance, this must have been in year around about when I was maybe 13, and she would at times even give me like 2,000 rands, which was a lot of money at the time. And I would buy expensive clothes with the money, because I didn't know what to do with the money. I grew up where I was never, I never saw, my relationship with money has never been a good relationship. So because I also think because I never saw anyone who, or I was never taught about making savings, investments, and all of that. So when then I started working, in the year 2009, my first permanent job. And so now I had a pay slip. And when I started working, I was never intentional in terms of saving, making sure that a percentage of my salary go towards savings, or any type of investment. So I was never intentional about that, and this affected me in terms of now my money, or I would spend it haphazardly and also impulsively, because I was spending my money on food, I was spending my money on buying toys for my children and buying clothes. And even though I was already married by this time, I was not communicating any of these things with my husband in terms of where I was spending the money on, but he did try also to verbalize in terms of, he would see me coming home with all these things, and there was a point where I was even hiding what I had bought, because I knew he was going to say something about it. So he did try to verbalize it, but I had a hard heart, or I just would build a wall. And so then I started taking up loans, credit cards, overdraft. I had clothing accounts and different clothing accounts at times, and I would have an account where I was buying bedding. I would have another account where I was buying on credit crockery. I was buying pots, and I would now also, it even came to a point where now I was not meeting my obligations, because expenses were more than the income. And I found myself now having to, when the credit card had debited, whatever portion is left, once the interest has been deducted, I would take that back again and go buy groceries. And so I saw this now, it was affecting the obligations now that were not dependent on, or that were not even a debit order, but the ones now I had to also intentionally send money or towards those obligations, like for instance the school fees, groceries. So this went on for quite some time, where I was, and every time I would spend almost daily. Every time I would spend, I would have this edge, this adrenaline, which I would say it's an addict. It's an addict, adrenaline or edge. So I was addicted to spending. I was addicted to shopping. If I'm honest about it, as I'm sitting here thinking about it now, is that I was addicted to spending. So I would have this adrenaline of this rush of saying, of buying this and this and this, and things I didn't even want, things I didn't even need, things I didn't even like at times, and mostly to please other people, mostly to try and fit in. Because I would buy expensive food, so I wanted people to see that I'm buying food at a certain shop. Buying toys for my kids. They are the first ones to have such, and all these other kids will come and gather at my house and play with my kids, because they had all the latest gadgets. And I didn't even, and they were so young, they didn't even know this, and they would even break them. They would break them up. They would break the toys, like Buzz Lightyear. I would buy them those toys. I would buy them PlayStations. They would break those toys immediately, and I had spent so much money on them. So I saw that this was a big problem, but at the time I did not realize I did not realize how deep I was in terms of this vicious cycle I had now placed myself under. So then I would come up with, I would find out about consolidation, where I would try and consolidate some of the debts so that I can pay at least one amount, which was a bit lesser than when for instance, if I would pay credit card overdraft in an account, and once I get the consolidation amount, I would settle those accounts, then at least I would pay one amount. But at the same time, I would find myself again back to that vicious cycle of having again these loans and these credit cards, and I was not even actively looking or actively seeking or finding these financial institutions. These were offered to me, but I couldn't say no. I would find myself that I was feeling sorry for the consultant. I don't even know this person. Feeling sorry for the consultant, the person who's calling me, offering me this loan. I would feel sorry that if I have to say no to them, and I would end up saying yes to please a total stranger, a person I have never met before, a person I am not even obliged to. That's how sick this thing was, or how dark this thing was. So I would at times get 100,000 rand or 150,000 rand loan, and I wouldn't even know where I spent the money, what I did with the money. And it was so, as much as it is still today, easy to obtain or to get this money. As long as I had a pay slip, that was enough for me to be able to acquire this debt. And they would just ask, since I'm married with my husband in community of property, they would just ask, is your husband in agreement? And I would say yes. No return a letter needed, no, they won't even call him to ask him or to verify this information from him. So it was as easy as that, and it still is, to acquire this financial, this debt. And I was in a way too deep, and I discovered that at work, because I was working for a local municipality, a metro. I discovered that with our pension, we could borrow money from our pension, and I took out 180,000 rands from our pension, and I don't even know what I did with that money. So the requirement was that you had to build a house or buy a house for you to be able to qualify for it. It was a loan, essentially, because I was paying it back monthly, and this time it was even appearing on my payslip because it was a stop order now, not a debit order. And so that showed me every day now that you have gotten deep now into debt. So I got this 108,000. I don't even know what I did with it. I don't even know what I did with that amount. And this left me feeling shame. This left me feeling, every time after the adrenaline, I would feel so bad. I would feel so depressed and anxious, and I would have anxiety because now I have to pay back this money. And I don't know how am I going to pay back this money, and I don't know how I found myself in this place. So I would over and over again do this, have this adrenaline rush, and then spend this money, and then feel bad afterwards. And also had this pride of not returning the things that I had bought, or taken on credit. So this went on and on and on for years and years and years, and we had to sell our house so that I could settle a loan. We had to sell our car that was paid up to settle another loan. So my husband now became aware of this, and he tried to be supportive, but at the same time he would also ask himself these questions in terms of, but how can I do? At the time we had 4 kids. How is this person really getting herself into such a position now where, and not just herself but us as a couple now in such a position where we have this debt, we have this, and we are stuck. We have to settle, we have to pay it up. We and go back again and do the exact same thing. And then so now I was desperate for a new job so that I could get my pension and to be able to settle now some of these loans, all of this debt, and try to start from the beginning afresh. But it was difficult because now when you want to buy things that matter, I didn't qualify. I didn't meet my credit score. Didn't meet up, even though on my credit score there were so many accounts that I had, or there's so many credit that I had accumulated, and I had managed to pay some of them, but it was too much. And so it was easy for financial institutions to offer loans and credit cards and overdraft, just if a person has a payslip. So I just wanted to share now so that it's important for me. The Lord had placed this in my heart because I believe that when we place light in these dark areas of our lives, we are able to shame, we're able to put into shame the enemy, because the enemy would love for us to die in silence and for us to sit with this shame and this guilt that is eating us up. We can't talk to anyone about it, and we feel like the enemy makes us feel like we are the only one, and how can you make such dumb decisions, and the enemy likes to play on our guilt. But the Lord had placed it in my heart, and I felt it's important that I share it so that whoever who is watching this video, they will know that they are not the only ones. And also there is help out there. But for me, the help, I won't lie, God helped me. Even though I still have the triggers and I have to avoid certain areas, but God really helped me. And I get convicted now every time I want to make these excessive spendings and impulsive spending. I get convicted. So I just wanted to share, and let's put the devil into shame by putting a light in these dark areas of our lives and these mistakes that we've made, and to know that whatever mistakes, whatever bad has been done to us, the Lord turns it for our good. So I hope this encourages you to know that you are not the only one, and that there is hope. Please don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel, and I look forward to sharing more in terms of my life experience. Also, I've been sharing together with my husband, we've also been sharing how my trauma affected also our marriage, and we'll still be sharing more in terms of that. So I thank you for your support. I thank you for keep on coming back to watch and and sharing also these videos. So let's put the devil into shame. Let's share these experiences, no matter how traumatic, no matter how embarrassing they are, no matter how we feel at the time. Let's not first wait to be fully healed before we can, because someone else can benefit from you sharing. So let's talk about it openly and try to support one another. Let's show our vulnerability. I thank you so much, and